My name is Jacob Mercer. I'm 41 years old, and for the past 3 years I've lived in the shadow of a ghost. My wife Evelyn died in what was reported as a tragic boating accident. Her body was never recovered, only fragments of wreckage and a folded life jacket with her initials. I buried an empty coffin, mourned beside an unmarked grave, and spent countless nights whispering apologies to a woman I never got to say goodbye to. My son, Noah, was only 6 then. He cried himself to sleep for months. I thought I'd never see light again. But time, in its cruel mercy, kept moving. I rebuilt our lives slowly, moved to a smaller home, focused on Noah's school, kept Evelyn's memory alive without letting it consume us. On his 9th birthday, Noah said, "Dad, I think you need to smile more." That hit harder than anything. It was time to breathe again, even if just for a while. So I booked us a week-long trip to the mountains, a fresh start, just the 2 of us. Somewhere cold, quiet and clean. No memories, no ghosts. We boarded a red-eye flight. I let Noah take the window seat, and I sat beside him, watching the crew load baggage under the wing. As the plane filled, I heard him gasp, sudden and sharp. He reached out and clutched my sleeve so tightly it made my breath catch. "Dad," he whispered, his voice trembling, eyes wide. "That's Mom, with another man." I followed his gaze, not prepared for what I was about to see. She was 5 rows ahead, walking down the aisle, her hair tucked into a hood, her eyes hidden behind sunglasses, but her walk, my God, that walk, the same tilt of the shoulders, the same nervous tuck of hair behind her left ear. My mind screamed impossible. She passed us without looking, her hand in the hand of a tall man with a worn leather duffel. Noah's grip tightened. "It's her. I swear it's her." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. My hands turned cold as I stared at the back of her head, at the way she tilted toward the man when he leaned in to whisper. It wasn't just a resemblance. It was her. The same birthmark on the nape of her neck, peeking out from her scarf. My wife, the woman I buried. The woman whose name is etched on a tombstone, sitting 5 rows ahead of me alive. And in that moment, I knew this trip wasn't going to be about healing. It was going to be about the truth, even if it destroyed everything I thought I had left. I didn't speak for the first 30 minutes of the flight. I couldn't. My body was sitting in that cramped seat beside Noah, but my mind was spiraling in every direction at once. Was I hallucinating? Had grief finally warped my sense of reality? I stared at the back of her head, watching her laugh softly with the man beside her. Not a stranger, not someone detached from the world. She looked free, like a woman with no past, no trail of ashes behind her. Noah kept glancing at me, worried. "Dad, did I do something wrong?" he asked. That jolted me back. "No, son," I said, gently squeezing his hand. "You didn't do anything wrong. You just saw something I wasn't ready to see." He nodded, though I could tell he didn't fully understand. He was just a kid, carrying a truth too big for his age. I looked at him, then back at her, and suddenly the father in me kicked in. I needed to know. I needed to protect him from whatever this was. When the seatbelt sign turned off, I stood. My heart pounded in my ears as I walked slowly down the aisle. I paused 2 rows behind her, close enough to see her profile. Her hand brushed her cheek, same dimples, same subtle scar near her temple from when she fell off her bike in college. It was her. I didn't speak. I just stood there, gripping the overhead compartment to steady myself. Then I turned and walked back. She hadn't seen me, or if she had, she didn't show it. And that made it worse, because the Evelyn I knew would have never hidden like that. Would have never left her child, would have never faked her death and built a new life in another man's arms. Unless she had a reason. unless the woman I buried had chosen to disappear. Back in my seat, I held it together for Noah. I didn't tell him anything else. I just said we'd be extending our trip a few days. "There's something I need to do," I said, trying to sound calm. But inside, I was unraveling. Who was that man she was with? Had she been hiding in plain sight all this time? Did she think we'd never find her? I didn't know the answers yet, but I knew this. I was going to find them. Because no one disappears without leaving something behind. And Evelyn had just walked back into my world like a ghost, begging to be followed. As soon as we landed, I watched where they went. I let them walk ahead, keeping just enough distance not to be noticed. Noah stayed beside me, quieter than usual, clinging to my side. I told him we were playing a quiet game. Follow the mystery lady. He nodded with wide, serious eyes. It broke my heart to turn this into a game for him, but I needed time to think, time to breathe, time to gather the courage to face what I hoped was just a mistake. They didn't rent a car or call for a cab. They walked fast but casual through the airport lobby and out into the pickup lane. And then a black SUV pulled up. She got in first. The man followed. I memorized the plates. Noah watched silently, his hand in mine, as the car pulled away into the snowy distance. "Was that really Mommy?" he asked again. I kneeled down, looked him in the eyes and said, "I don't know yet, son, but I'm going to find out." After checking into our cabin, I called in a favor. A friend of mine, Alan, used to work for the state police. Now he runs a quiet private investigation office. I gave him the plate number, the time, the terminal, everything I could remember. "You sure you want to do this, Jake?" he asked. I hesitated. "I buried her, Alan. I watched a coffin go into the ground. And now she's on a plane with another man like nothing ever happened. I need to know if I've been mourning a lie." While I waited, I dug through my old storage drive. Photos, letters, passwords, old emails. Evelyn hadn't left much behind when she died. No journal, no notes, no strange behavior. At least that's what I thought. But now, as I looked at it all again through different eyes, I started to see the cracks. A deleted email thread from a month before her accident. A transfer of $20,000 to an account I didn't recognize, and a final purchase, one-way ferry tickets under an alias I never noticed. Alan called 2 days later. "Jake, I've got something," he said. That SUV was registered under a shell company based in Vermont. And get this, the man she was with. Name's Eric Baldwin, corporate attorney, divorced, no kids. But here's the kicker. He reported his girlfriend as his emergency contact on a medical form 2 months ago. Her name, Evelyn Baldwin. I nearly dropped the phone. She hadn't just vanished. She had reinvented herself. Not kidnapped, not lost, not in witness protection. Alive, and someone entirely new. And now that I knew where she was, the real question surfaced in my chest. Why? That night I barely slept. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Evelyn's face burned into my memory. Not the one I buried, but the one I saw laughing on that flight. My mind played tricks on me, flipping between mourning and fury, between disbelief and unbearable clarity. 3 years of raising our son alone. 3 years of folding his laundry, packing school lunches, wiping his tears when he whispered, "I miss Mommy." And all that time, she was building a new life under a new name. I didn't tell Noah the truth. Not yet. He was too young to carry that kind of betrayal. Instead, I kept our trip going like nothing was wrong. We hiked, we told stories by the fire, but inside, I was unraveling and rebuilding all at once. The part of me that still loved her was gasping for air. The part of me that had grieved her was furious. And the part of me that was a father, he was sharpening into something unshakable. I contacted Alan again. I needed more. Not gossip, not speculation. Proof. He sent me everything: photos, addresses, even security footage from a small-town grocery store near where they lived. It was her, smiling, healthy, free, buying fruit with a man who clearly knew nothing about the boy she'd left behind. That was the moment I stopped grieving. I didn't know why she had done it, but now I knew that she had, and that changed everything. So I drove. I left Noah with Alan's wife, safe, warm, and distracted, and drove 3 hours through sleet and winding roads into Vermont. I parked outside the modest home they shared, a 2-story farmhouse tucked behind pine trees. Her car was in the driveway, her coat, that familiar grey one, with the torn seam near the elbow, hung by the front door. My pulse pounded as I sat in the car, gripping the wheel, rehearsing every possible conversation in my mind. But I didn't storm the house. I didn't ring the bell. I waited. I waited until she stepped outside, alone, carrying a bag of trash toward the bin. I watched her walk slowly, unaware of the wreckage trailing behind her. She looked content, unburdened, like she hadn't left a child crying for her in the dark. I opened the car door. My boots crunched the snow. She turned at the sound, and when our eyes met, she froze. The color drained from her face. The bag dropped. "Jacob," she whispered. But I didn't answer. I just stared at the woman I had once called my everything, and waited for the truth to crawl out of her silence. She didn't move. Her eyes searched mine, like she was looking for the version of me that still loved her. But that man was gone, buried beside the ashes of the lie she left behind. "You died," I said, my voice low, controlled. "I buried you. Our son buried you." Evelyn staggered back a step, as if the weight of my words struck her harder than the cold air between us. "I can explain," she breathed, eyes glistening. But I shook my head. "Don't lie to me. Not now." She looked over her shoulder, toward the house, as if someone might be watching. Then she pulled me aside, toward the back porch, her hands trembling. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she said. "I wasn't supposed to be found." I crossed my arms, every muscle in my body holding back the storm. "Then explain. Tell me how a mother vanishes without a trace and leaves her child to believe she's dead." Her lips parted, but no words came. I watched her break beneath the question. Finally, she spoke. "I left because I was going to die, Jacob. Not physically, emotionally, mentally. I was drowning. You didn't see it. I was smiling for you, for Noah. But inside I was gone, and one night, I just broke. I knew if I stayed, I'd disappear in a worse way." Her voice cracked. "So I planned it. I made it clean. I thought it was mercy, for both of you. But I didn't flinch. I saw through her now, her guilt, her justification. It was survival. But it was also betrayal." "Did you ever plan to come back?" I asked. She looked away. "No," she whispered. "I thought you'd both be better off without me." I exhaled sharply, years of grief folding into something sharper. "You weren't a ghost, Evelyn. You were a mother, and you chose to haunt your own son's life while you started fresh in someone else's arms." Her face contorted. "Eric doesn't know," she admitted. "He doesn't know about Noah, about any of it. He thinks I changed my name after a divorce." The silence between us screamed. "So you killed us," I said, "to rewrite yourself." She stepped forward, tears now streaming. "I didn't know how to come back. I didn't know how to face what I'd done, until I saw Noah on that plane. Jacob, he's grown. He looks just like you." I swallowed hard, fists clenched. "He still waits for you, you know. Still dreams about you. And you watched him from 5 rows away like he was a stranger." She dropped to her knees in the snow, weeping into her hands. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't kneel. I simply looked down at the woman I once would have walked through fire for, and realized I no longer burned. She cried into her palms like a child, like someone who had just now realized the cost of their freedom, but I didn't move. I couldn't. There was no part of me left to offer her comfort, not after what she'd done, not after the silence she'd forced our son to grow up in. She looked up at me, snow clinging to her lashes, and whispered, "Do you hate me?" The question should have been easy, but it wasn't. I stared at her and said quietly, "No, I just don't know who you are anymore." She stood slowly, her knees soaked from the snow, her breath unsteady. "I never stopped loving him," she said. "You have to believe that." I looked away, jaw clenched. "You loved him enough to disappear, to let him believe his mother was at the bottom of a lake." Her shoulders sagged under the weight of my words. "I thought you'd remarry. I thought he'd forget me with time." My voice broke as I replied, "He remembers everything, every bedtime story, every lullaby, every day you were gone." There was no satisfaction in watching her hurt, only sorrow. I hadn't come for revenge, I came for answers, and I was getting them, just not the kind I could live with. "So, what now?" she asked. "What happens next?" I stared at the house behind her. "Now you tell him the truth. He saw you on that plane, Evelyn. You owe him a reason. You don't get to disappear a second time." She covered her mouth, shaking. "I don't think I can face him." I stepped in closer, my voice steady but low. "Then I will, and I'll tell him everything. That his mother didn't die, that she walked away, and that when she finally had a chance to make it right, she chose not to." Her eyes widened. "You'd do that?" I nodded. "If you won't carry the truth, I will. I've been carrying everything else anyway." She stood there, broken, torn between guilt and fear. And then, for the first time since I arrived, I saw something shift in her, resolve. She nodded slowly. "I'll come," she said. "I'll talk to him. But just once." I gave her a time and a place. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. You sit with him. You look him in the eyes. You explain why you left. And after that, I never want to see you again." She nodded, whispering, "Okay," and I turned and walked away. Not with anger, not with closure, just the steady, quiet power of a man who had outlived the lie. The next morning felt heavy. I sat across from Noah at breakfast, watching him stir his cereal in slow, distracted circles. I hadn't told him yet, not all of it, just that we were going to meet someone important today. He didn't ask many questions. He just nodded, a little quieter than usual, as if he already knew something deeper was coming. I looked at him, the same eyes as his mother, the same stubborn chin, and I knew this moment would mark him forever. At 1:45 p.m., we walked into the quiet cabin lounge Alan had offered for the meeting. The fireplace crackled gently in the corner. I set out 2 chairs and waited. Noah played with a puzzle on the floor, innocent, unaware of how close he was to a memory he thought was gone forever. Then the door creaked open. Evelyn stepped in. Her face was pale, lips tight, eyes red but steady. She looked like someone who hadn't slept, and for once I hoped that was true. Noah looked up, and time seemed to slow. He froze. His eyes widened, just like on that plane. "Mom?" he whispered. Evelyn's lip quivered. "Hi, baby," she said, kneeling down slowly. "It's me." His toy fell from his hand. "But you died." He looked at me, confused, betrayed. I crouched beside him. "She didn't, son. I thought she had. We all did. But she left. And she didn't tell us why. Today she's going to—" Noah didn't cry. He just looked at her, like a child trying to solve a riddle too big for his heart. Evelyn took a long breath. "I made a terrible mistake," she said. "I thought I was protecting you from myself. I was hurting. and I thought leaving would spare you. But it didn't. I see that now. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I let you grow up without me." Noah stared at her, still and silent. Then he asked, "Do you love me?" Her whole body shuddered. "More than anything in the world." He nodded. "Then why didn't you come back?" And that question, so simple, so true, broke her. She wept, hands covering her mouth, unable to answer. I placed my hand on Noah's shoulder. "You don't have to forgive today," I told him. "You just have to listen, and then you get to decide." We sat in that cabin for over an hour. She told stories. He asked questions. There were long silences. And eventually, Noah reached out and held her hand. Just once. Just long enough. Then he let go and looked at me. "I'm ready to go, Dad." Evelyn didn't ask to stay. She didn't try to follow us. She just nodded, wiping her tears, and whispered, "Thank you for letting me see him." I walked out with Noah into the cold, and for the first time in 3 years, we didn't carry her memory. We left it behind, where it finally belonged. The drive back to our cabin was silent. Not awkward, just heavy, like the last pages of a story no one thought would reopen. I watched Noah in the rearview mirror. His expression was blank, but his hands were folded in his lap, fingers tight. I didn't rush him. I didn't speak. I just let the stillness hold space for both of us. Grief doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, and I could feel it whispering now through the snow-laced trees. When we got back, I made us hot cocoa. Noah didn't touch his. He sat on the couch, staring at the flickering fire. Finally he said, "She looks the same, but she doesn't feel the same." I nodded. "She's not," I replied softly. "People can look like the past and still not belong to your future." He looked at me then, more grown than he had any right to be. "Is it okay that I don't want to see her again?" I walked over, knelt in front of him, and took his hand. "It's more than okay. It's your right." That night he asked to sleep beside me. We lay there in the dark, and I felt his small frame press against mine, like when he was little. I realized then that closure doesn't always come in forgiveness. Sometimes it's just choosing not to chase someone anymore. And that night, my son chose peace over pieces. He didn't cry. He didn't ask again. He just slept deeply for the first time in what felt like forever. The next morning, I sent Alan a final message. "No more follow-ups. We're done." I deleted every photo, every file, every trace of Evelyn's new life. I didn't need to know what she did next. I didn't care who she became. She had been part of a chapter that ended, and we had both turned the page. Noah didn't even ask where she went. That was how I knew he was healing. Elena, a woman I'd met months earlier through a grief group, messaged me that same day. We had drifted a bit after the trip. But something about her timing made me believe in quiet providence. She asked if we were back and safe. I told her the truth just enough, and then I asked her to dinner, not as an escape, but as a beginning, a real one. The kind that grows from honesty, not the ashes of deception. That night, as Noah drew in his sketchbook by the window, and the snow kept falling gently outside, I looked at him and saw not a boy haunted by a missing mother, but a boy who knew the weight of truth and survived it. Weeks passed, and winter gave way to spring. Our trip ended, but the transformation stayed. Noah began to laugh more, sleep better, even ask questions about things that had nothing to do with the past. That was my sign. We were moving forward, not because the wound had vanished, but because we had stopped picking at it. He was healing, and in my quiet way, so was I. Evelyn never contacted us again. No letters, no calls, no emails, and I never reached out. We had said what needed to be said. Some people leave your life violently, Others simply fade. She had done both. I thought I'd carry that ache forever, but with each passing day, it softened, like a scar that no longer burns when touched. The truth didn't break me, it set me free from the illusion that she ever planned to stay. Elena and I grew close in slow, steady steps. She never asked for details unless I wanted to share. She understood silence in a way that only those who've known grief can. She met Noah on a park walk. No introductions, no labels, just laughter, shared stories, and ease. The three of us felt oddly whole, not as a replacement, not as a cover, but as something new being built from what survived. One evening Noah asked, "Dad, are we normal again?" I smiled. "We're not the same, buddy, but we're better." He nodded, thoughtful. "Better's okay." And in that moment I realized how much strength it takes to raise a child through sorrow, and how much wisdom they gain watching you do it with grace. He wasn't just my son anymore. He was my witness, my anchor, my reason. I started writing again, quietly, just reflections on loss, on survival, on the strange miracle of letting go. A small publisher picked up one of my essays. The title? The Day I Buried a Ghost Who Was Still Breathing. It wasn't about revenge. It was about awakening. And the people who read it didn't ask who was she. They asked, how did you survive? And I told them, by choosing truth over fantasy, silence over spectacle, my son over my scars. And every time I reread those words, I reminded myself, I didn't lose her. I found us. The final chapter didn't come with a dramatic goodbye. It came in small, gentle closures, like when Noah stopped asking about birthdays she missed, or when I found his old drawing of our family, one that used to include her, but this time it was just the two of us, smiling beneath a sun with no shadows. That's when I knew we hadn't just survived her absence, we had outgrown it. I never told Elena everything. She never asked for the whole story. But one night, as we watched Noah run through the field behind her house, I said, he used to think she was gone forever. Now he knows the truth. And he still chose to keep his heart open. She touched my hand, softly. Then, you raised him right. I looked at her and realized she was right. Not because I had done everything perfectly, but because I had refused to let someone else's lie define how we moved forward. Evelyn became a name we stopped using, not out of hatred, but because we no longer needed to remember her. We carried no anger, only distance. And sometimes that's the healthiest thing you can keep between yourself and the person who left. The past didn't need revenge, it needed peace, and we finally had it. Years later, Noah stood at his graduation ceremony, taller, braver, his eyes still sharp with memory, but no longer haunted. As he walked across the stage, he looked toward me, then Elena, sitting beside me, and smiled, a real one. And in that moment, I didn't see a boy who'd been abandoned. I saw a man who had learned how to rebuild. When people ask what happened to Evelyn, I don't say much. I tell them this. Sometimes the people we lose aren't lost at all. They just choose lives we were never meant to follow. And when that happens, the strongest thing you can do is stop chasing ghosts and start choosing your own peace. Because that's what I did. And it gave me something far greater than closure. It gave me freedom, and a son who grew up knowing that the truth, no matter how painful, was always safer than the lie. That's the real ending, and the most honest one I'll ever tell.